Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and distinguished guests, welcome to the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry Incorporated and the Filipino-Chinese Community's celebration of the 124th Philippine Independence Day and the 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day. 各位女士们、先生们，亲爱的各位来宾朋友们，大家下午好！欢迎参加非华商联总会庆祝第124个菲律宾独立节暨第21个非中友谊日的线上庆典。My name is Luella Chan from Chinatown TV, and I'm very honored to be your host for this prestigious occasion. 我是来自非中电视台的庄琳琳，非常荣幸与大家共襄盛举，共同庆祝这美好的一天。请大家全体肃立。奏非中国歌 Let us all rise for the Philippine and China national anthem.
Tayang magiliw, ewas ng sinakanan, alam ng puso, sa dikit mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyag ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisingil sa nagagaktutok sa simoy at sa langit mong pagaw. Ay hinatang tula, kawin sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na nagtitingin. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di matitingin. Luma ng araw ng walhagin pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang inigaya na pagkay mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo. Sila'y muyan sa lumiyan man, 把我们的血肉筑成我们心的长城，中华民族到了最危险的时候，每个人被迫着发出最后的吼声。起来，起来，起来！我们万众一心，朝着敌人炮火前进，朝着敌人炮火前进，前进，前进，进。
请大家就坐 Please be seated. Today's event is a special project of the FFCCCII Public Information and Media Committee, headed by Vice President Jeffrey Nang and Committee Chairman Wilson Lee Flores. As part of today's celebration, the committee has also arranged for a special newspaper feature that is published in 5 major newspapers today, namely Philippine Star, Manila Bulletin, Philippine Daily Inquirer, Manila Times, and Abante, and it will also come out on June 10 in the business world. Please grab a copy of these newspapers when you get the chance. And now, without further ado, let us all welcome FFCCCII President Dr. Henry Lim Bon Leong for his opening remarks. 请大家一起来欢迎非华商联总会理事长林玉庆博士致欢迎词。
Thank you, Luella. Thank you very much. To Excellency, our beloved President, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, of course, His Excellency, our incoming President, BBM Bongbong Marcos, and our incoming Vice President Sara Duterte, His Excellency Ambassador Huang Xilian of the People's Republic of China, and all the incumbent and incoming government officials, notably led by Senate President Nick Subiri, and also incoming Speaker of the House, Martin Romualdez. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On behalf of the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry Incorporated, FFCCCII, It is my great pleasure to welcome all of you to our celebration of the 124th Philippine Independence Day and 21 Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day. Our federation, together with the Filipino-Chinese community, is honored to host this virtual gathering to commemorate these two very important occasions. June 12, 1898 marked our people's declaration of independence from more than 3 centuries of colonial rule. Our national hero, Dr. Jose Rizal, and the thousands of Filipino heroes paid for with their lives the precious freedom that we now have. Their courage and bravery are a source of inspiration for all of us in fulfilling our duties and responsibilities as citizens of our country. We are the successors of this great legacy. The struggles, victories, and patriotic acts remind us that we too can serve our country and the heroes of our time. Amid the risks brought by the COVID-19 pandemic, we honor the heroism of our frontliners who consistently perform their duties and even risking their lives. Many of them succumbed to COVID-19 at the height of the pandemic, and their sacrifices were forever remembered. Like our heroes, as a treatment of selflessness and of public service. 124 years ago, our heroes fought for the freedom of future generations. It is but right that we carry out their legacy and build a better world for the next generation. We would like to acknowledge, of course, the sacrifice of many Chinese and Chinois, of Chinese mestizo in shaping the Philippine democracy. We have the likes of General Poa, Emilio Aguinaldo, Trece Matres, Pomborsa, General Vicente Lim, Mr. Roman Ompin, and many, many others. And as today, we are facing other global threats, especially the climate change. In August 2021, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change has warned of extreme events of global warming, fierce typhoons, floods, droughts, and others that will lead to irreversible damages to our planet. Our country is directly affected by climate change, and we are responding to this big challenge together. The solution to climate change rests in our hands, and our actions to address it and its impacts. One of our partners in effort to strengthen talks and cooperation on climate change, such as renewable energy, is our neighbor and ancient trade partners, China. And this afternoon, we are here to celebrate the 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day, which coincides with the establishment of official diplomatic relations between the Philippines and China on June 9. Our two countries' relations, which began long before Western civilizations came to our shores, have flourished as years pass. Since the ancient times, many Chinese have come to the Philippines from the Tang Dynasty up to the present, where they settled down and raised families. A group of Chinese volunteers fighters, the Huachi Guerrilla Squadron 48, even fought side by side the Filipino against foreign aggressions to fight for Philippine freedom. Together, they achieved aspirations for a peaceful nation which all live in peace and harmony. I'm happy to tell you also that my father at that time was young, but he was part of the guerrilla doing also volunteer work. And this is one thing that I will treasure forever in my life. Over the years, both our countries grew as partners and expanded cooperation. We rose above our difference and united our efforts to advance economic trade and development cooperation. Now, China is our major trade and investment partner. export market and import supplier. Many Philippine conglomerates and companies too have established their businesses in different parts of China. Apart from our flourishing trade, China has extended socio-economic aid in times of calamities and donations from bridges to vaccines for anti-pandemic efforts. We greatly appreciate the Chinese government. Donations of medical supplies, test kits, face masks, PPEs, and several million doses of vaccine to help us overcome the COVID-19. Infrastructure, China has extended support to the Philippines through various development projects, such as the multi-billion pesos gift of the modern Australia-Pantaleon Bridge connecting both Makati and Mandaluyong, and the Binondo Intramuros Bridge in Manila. For this, we acknowledge President Duterte's independent foreign policy. The government's focus on enhancing our important relations with China the past 6 years. Building on the ties that bind us, our federation, together with the Filipino-Chinese community, look forward to building bridges of understanding, enhancing exchanges, and promoting people-to-people friendship between the Philippines, the Filipinos in particular, and our Chinese people. So as we usher in the coming BBM Sara Duterte administration, we are looking forward to a warmer economic ties that will expand between our two countries. Mabuhay ang Filipino-Chinese friendship, mabuhay ang araw ng kalayaan, mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Maraming salamat ho sa inyong lahat. 谢谢大家。
非常感谢非华商联总会理事长林玉庆博士的致辞。Thank you so much to FFCCCII President Dr. Henry Lim Bonyong for your welcome remarks. Up next, let us all welcome the President of the Republic of the Philippines, His Excellency Rodrigo Roa Duterte, for his remarks. 请大家一起来热烈欢迎菲律宾共和国总统杜特尔特阁下致辞。
I am one with the Filipinos, both here and abroad, as we celebrate the 124th anniversary of the proclamation of Philippine independence. This occasion is a testament to how our forefathers fought for the freedoms that we enjoy today. May it inspire us to take after the courage of our heroes, as well as encourage us to use our ability, skills, and knowledge for the benefit of our communities. Take to heart all the humbling learnings from the past, especially the countless hardships that we had to endure as a people. Let our rich history move us to translate our love for this country into real acts of goodwill for all our fellow men. Let us also work together so that we can realize our vision of a more harmonious and more progressive Philippines. May we have a meaningful commemoration. Mabuhay ang Pilipino, mabuhay ang Pilipinas.
Maraming salamat po, Pangulong President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. 非常感谢菲律宾共和国总统杜特尔特阁下。Up next, let us all give a warm welcome to Chinese Ambassador to the Philippines, His Excellency Huang Xilian, for his remarks. 请大家一起来热烈欢迎中国驻菲律宾大使黄锡连阁下致辞。
His Excellency President-elect Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos, Her Excellency Vice President-elect Sara Duterte, Her Excellency former President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, Honorable Henry Lim, President of Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to join you in the virtual celebration of the 124th anniversary of Philippine independence and the 21st China-Philippines Friendship Day. On behalf of the Chinese Embassy in the Philippines, I would like to express my gratitude to FFCCCII for organizing this event. I would also like to take this opportunity to extend my warm congratulations to the people of the Philippines on the 124th anniversary of its independence. In recent years, under the leadership of President Rodrigo Duterte, the Philippines has made significant new achievements in nation building and social development. We have every reason to believe that under the leadership of the new government, the Philippines will move towards a more prosperous future in the years to come. China and the Philippines are close neighbors facing each other across the waters and partners through thick and thin. Since the establishment of diplomatic ties 47 years ago, China-Philippines relations have come a long way thanks to the guidance of successive leaders and joint efforts of peoples on both sides. In particular, in the past 6 years, led by President Xi Jinping and President Duterte, our bilateral ties have realized an upturn and scored further consolidation and uplift. With the establishment of a comprehensive strategic cooperative relationship, fruitful cooperation outcomes in various fields have been achieved. Facing the challenge of COVID-19 pandemic, the two countries have worked shoulder to shoulder and lent assistance to each other, demonstrating the precious brotherhood and partnership in the new era with concrete actions. The China-Philippines friendship has brought tangible benefits to both peoples and will shine brighter in the tempering of time. At present, both China and the Philippines are at a crucial stage of development, and their bilateral relations face important opportunities and broad prospects. Last month, Chinese President Xi Jinping had a cordial telephone conversation with Philippine President-elect Bongbong Marcos. President Xi pointed out that the two sides should carry forward the friendship, grasp the general trend so as to usher in an even brighter future for the bilateral ties. President-elect Bongbong Marcos also expressed his hope that Philippine-China relations will shift to higher gear and inject new strong momentum into the development of bilateral relations. This reflects both the political will of the two leaders and the common aspirations of the two peoples. Ladies and gentlemen, the international and regional situations are undergoing fast, profound, and complex changes, and the world is entering yet another period of turbulence and transformation. China and the Philippines are close neighbors with their shared future and common stakes in Asia. Facing the global uncertainties, the two countries have better reasons to work closely to jointly tackle challenges, focus on peace and development, and strive to boost win-win cooperation. Let us join hand in hand with each other to deliver an even brighter future for China-Philippines relations. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency 黄熙莲阁下。 for your speech. Up next, we're very honored to receive messages by our special guest today. First up, we have President-elect Bongbong Marcos. 请大家一起来热烈欢迎菲律宾共和国后任总统马克思。
I would like to extend my warmest greetings to all our Chinese brothers and sisters as you hold this joint celebration of the 124th Philippine Independence Day and the 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day. I would also like to congratulate the FFCCCII for the innovative efforts in putting together this virtual celebration event. The centuries-old relationship and friendship of the Philippines and China has been and will continue to be of great mutual benefit to our people. From trade, arts, culture, athletics, to regional peace and stability, to the employment of opportunities for our people, and all the significantly generous efforts extended to us during the pandemic, the cooperative partnership of our two nations continued to reach new heights. I join you in this celebration as we look forward to more years, not only of diplomatic relations, but of continuous fruitful engagements between China and the Philippines as we continue to enjoy the friendship that we have developed over the years. Happy Philippine Independence Day and a happy 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day.
Thank you so much to His Excellency, President-elect Bongbong Marcos. Up next, let us all welcome Her Excellency Vice President-elect Sara Duterte for her remarks. 请大家一起来欢迎后任副总统莎拉杜特尔特致辞。
Madayaw and Dai Dahao. On behalf of the city government of Davao, I am pleased to extend the warmest greetings to my fellow Filipinos around the world and to the entire Filipino-Chinese community on the commemoration of the 124th Philippine Independence Day and the 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day. It is evident that the enduring kinship between the Republic of the Philippines and the People's Republic of China has led to the success of various endeavors across all industries that contributed to our growing economy over the years, especially during the course of the COVID-19 pandemic. With the marking of these important events, it is only apt to express our utmost gratitude to everyone who continues to play their respective roles in the preservation of our independence, along with the promotion of the ongoing Philippines-China diplomatic relations. I am looking forward our mutual and continued prosperity through ongoing programs and to achieving new milestones together with the ever-active Filipino-Chinese community in the country. Rest assured that the city of Davao is geared towards strengthening its ties with sister cities in China and also remains hopeful in forging fresh relations that will help empower more communities in both nations, paving the way for a more sustainable and lasting peace for the future generation. Again, happy 124th Philippine Independence Day and 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day. Maraming salamat po and shishi.
Thank you so much to Her Excellency. Thank you so much to Her Excellency Vice President-elect Sara Duterte. 非常感谢后任副总统莎拉杜特尔特女士。I would like to take this opportunity to also acknowledge the presence of FEZA Director General, Ms. Charito B. Plaza. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. Welcome. Up next, we prepared a very special documentary for all of you. As the Filipino-Chinese community celebrates the 124th Philippine Independence Day today, let us all look back at the many Filipino-Chinese history heroes who have contributed to the making of history. Let us all watch this documentary. 今天下午，我们特地为大家准备了菲律宾独立史的一个短视频，请大家一起来欣赏。
I am Francis M. Navarro, Professor of History, University Archivist of the Ateneo de Manila University. There were a few Chinese uprisings against the Spanish. The earliest one was in 1593, wherein Governor General at the time, Governor General Dasmariñas, actually died because of a mutiny of some Chinese individuals who were forced to row for the Governor General, the ships. Well, if you went to the Sangli Rebellion, you're referring to actually to the major revolt of 1603. Basically because there were rumors of a massacre as well. And the Chinese feared that they will be massacred in their beds. Instead of waiting for it to happen, they started to revolt. And of course, on the side of the Spanish, there were also rumors that the Chinese were planning to massacre all of them. This was also a means for the Spanish to control immigration to the Philippines. They controlled Chinese entering the Philippines. They controlled their businesses. Later on, there will be no more uprisings because the Chinese would be now integrating itself with the community. And this will be intermarriages, conversions to Christianity, and of course, this will result to the rise of a mestizo population.
I am Herman Tiu Laurel, and I am a writer, I am a broadcaster. I call myself a broadcast educator on our Philippine political economy, our history, and other interesting aspects about the Filipino. Ang links ng China and the Philippines stretch that far as we go into the 15th, 16th century na colonize ng Pilipinas. And years later, Western imperialism incursions into China. Even through that period, nagtutulungan ng Pilipino at ang mga Chino doon sa anti-Western colonialism struggle.
Generally, I would speak of discrimination throughout the centuries. There was no equality between the Spanish and the Filipinos. You remember your Philippine history class, maybe your teacher would show you a pyramid wherein you have the top of the pyramid, the small group, you have the Spanish, and the lowest group, you will have the natives or the Indios, sharing the same, practically the same level as that of the Chinese. And of course, part of this discrimination was poor social mobility as well. General Ignacio Paua was a full-blooded Chinese who served with General Emilio Aguinaldo. General Paua was one of the signatories of the Pact of Biak na Bato. So imagine the role he played. Here you have a foreigner, practically grew up in the Philippines, knowing that he was Chinese, but he loved the land of his birth. When Filipinos at that time were not totally united against the Spanish, here you have General Paua.
We have many names today that we remember that were helping raise funds to support the Philippine Revolution against the Spanish colonizers. We had Dong Pin, we had Paua, whose skill as a blacksmith, forging guns, fixing guns, forging cannons, and so on.
The Chinese started to intermarry with the Filipinos. The union would not be considered valid if the other party, like the Chinese, would also be converting to Christianity. This is where the Chinese would start to adopt Christian names. And of course, this would validate not only their religion, but also their residency in the Philippines. So you see, this is where the Chinese mestizos would become a very important segment of society. Why? Because of their being mestizos, they were full residents of the islands. They were given more mobility to move around.
Chinese culture, through the mestizos, through products of the intermarriage of Chinese and Filipinos and Filipino-Spanish descendants, had produced people like Jose Rizal, for example.
If you remember the Noli and the Fili, Jose Rizal even mentioned Chinese mestizos even in his novels. He recognized also the fact that they were an important group of people in Philippine society.
Purebred Chinese also had direct contributions, the Chuijians, for example, the Lim Hops, mainly in trading and business.
These are family names that would ring a bell, in terms of successful businessmen in Binondo. These 13 martyrs were all major personalities in Cavite. They were businessmen, respected, rich, and so they became what you might call sacrificial lambs. The Chinese mestizos were the ones who actually had money. Though they were not part of the movement, they were sympathetic to it. It was easy for the Spaniards to pinpoint who would be the main suspects. There were not so many because when you speak of the Filipino middle class, you only have the Chinese mestizos, and rich Filipinos were able to do well in their businesses. They were accused of supporting the revolution. In a quick trial, they were accused of treason, and the punishment for treason was death. Mariano Limhap was also together with the Palancas, together with Julians, Binondo-based families. Their businesses actually brought Binondo fame. So for the Spaniards, they could easily be accused of supplying food, supplying weapons, and supplying monetary assistance. Well, the Spanish era ended basically when the Americans came. When the Spanish were defeated, firstly at the Battle of Manila Bay, and later on with the American soldiers arriving in vast numbers, still allied with General Aguinaldo, believing that the Americans were there to help the Filipinos gain their independence. They pushed the Spaniards into submission until the Spanish surrendered the city of Manila, and then later on, you have the signing of the Treaty of Paris by the end of 1898.
During the American period, some of the personalities, one in particular is General Vicente Lim, the first Filipino, of course, of Filipino-Chinese descent. General Vicente Lim was the first Filipino to graduate from the U.S. Military Academy, West Point. Eventually, of course, the Second World War came in and joined the struggle, and he was martyred in the struggle against the Japanese when he was arrested and he was incarcerated, and the last part of his life is not very clear. He was taken and apparently killed in a cemetery, but his body was never found.
At the beginning of the 20th century, our history at that time was practically coinciding also with major changes in China. Sun Yat-sen was already an important personality, especially in the establishment of the Chinese Republic in 1910.
Dr. Sun Yat-sen met with Mariano Ponce to transact the assistance, both the Chinese revolutionaries and for the Filipino revolutionaries. One of the assistance that Dr. Sun Yat-sen extended to the Filipino revolutionaries was the transaction for the revolutionary groups in the Philippines to get arms from the contacts in Japan. And due to particular conditions in the Philippines at that time, the arms shipment was lent to the Chinese revolutionaries. So we can see the interplay of the help each gave to the other.
I'm Ivan Mandy from Old Manila Walks, and we do tours of the Manila Chinese Cemetery. The Chinese Cemetery is one of the most historic cemeteries in Manila. It was founded in 1879. It has over 140 years of history, of community history, that will include a lot of memorials from various aspects of our history. A lot of people fail to notice is that when they come to the Manila Chinese Cemetery is that this burial ground is actually full of war memorials. And these war memorials commemorate a particular period in our history, the Second World War. So we have what they call as the Liat Si Tong, or the Martyrs Hall. And this was built in the 1950s to remember community leaders who were executed by the Japanese army in 1942. In the 1930s, before Japan invaded the Philippines, they were already invading parts of China. So during that time, there were quite a few businessmen who organized an anti-Japanese movement in Manila, protesting against the Japanese invasion. That included boycotting Japanese goods. So when the Japanese arrived in Manila in 1942, these businessmen, they were eventually tagged and executed during that time. So one of the personalities at the Martyrs Hall is Yu Yitung, who was executed by the Japanese in 1942.
我是吴庆文哦，这个是我阿哥吴英辉，因爸爸就是吴义栋。Mr. Yu Yitong, after he came here, he teaches at the Yonsei Academy. Eventually, he was hired by the Chinese Chamber of Commerce to be their secretariat. And the Chinese Chamber of Commerce eventually come out with a monthly newsletter, and that is Xiongpo. Xiongpo eventually, after a few years, become a daily paper, and he was the editor at that time. In 1930s, when the Japanese started invading China, there was an anti-Japanese goods movement in the Philippines. And of course, he's part of, not really part, but the newspaper was telling people to help on this, helping this movement. And when the Japanese came in December of 1941, of course, the Japanese want to make use of the newspaper to be their propaganda, because Xiongpo is very influential of the Chinese community. So they got my grandfather, Yu Yitong, arrested him and tried to convince him to continue the paper under the banner of, for the Japanese government. Of course, he refused. So eventually, he was rearrested and taken away.
I'm Henry Lim Bon Leong. I'm the president of the Federation of the Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce. This era belongs to my father. I still remember my father is also part of Chinese guerrilla group. I think he was only 16, but there was a young guerrilla group called Special Task Force. I think there's one incident that I remember in which my father narrated to me several times. That when finally, when the Americans came back, they bombed all the Japanese installations, especially Minondo. But then, because of this sporadic bombing and all this, a lot of Chinese died. maternal grandfather also died in one of these bombing. I lost two of my cousins, not by the enemy gunfire, but by the Americans' gunfire.
One of the most conspicuous monuments at the Chinese cemetery is the memorial to the Huachi guerrillas. Now, the Huachi guerrilla group was a resistance group which started in 1942. So they worked together with the other guerrilla groups, the non-Chinese guerrilla groups like the Hukbalahap, the Markings, or the ROTC guerrilla. So the Huachi was a guerrilla group which was organized in 1942.
Hi, I'm Danilo Tanong, President Emeritus of the Huachi Descendants Association. As the fall of Manila became imminent, the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Labor Association decided to organize a resistance movement against the Japanese invasion. In this effort, they chose 30 able-bodied youths on December 30, 1941, and sent these youths for training in San Juan, San Fernando, Pampanga. Another 400 youths were set out to Mandili, Candama, Pampanga, there to join the local guerrilla groups. In May 19, 1942, these trained guerrilla warfare of Chinese descent were recalled, and they were organized into their own fighting unit. This was the creation of the Huachi 48 Squadron. They named their Squadron 48 as a tribute to China's New Fourth Army and the 8th Route Army that were dominant and preeminent in China at that time against the Japanese. And they were a dominant factor in the liberation of Manila.
Near the Liatsitong, or the Martyrs Hall, you will also find monuments to the other Chinese guerrilla resistant groups, no? Like the Pekkek Squadron and the Kauhem. No? So these were also underground groups who helped with the resistance movement in the country during the Second World War. So the Chinese community, they also contributed a lot in peacetime, in wartime, and they are all remembered here at the Chinese cemetery.
The Philippines and China, we have a long history, ever since the Tang Dynasty. During the Spanish time, Chinese here, usually they come here, all of them are merchants. They come here to barter with our sultans and our Raja and Datu, because of this long history of friendship and bartering trade until now. We are still looking at very good of course, trade relations, especially with China, being, I think it's already number one trading countries with the Philippines already.
We've had 45 years of formal diplomatic relations with China. In that entire period, it has been very productive and beneficial for the Philippines. The cultural aspect of the attitudes of Filipinos changed in the year 2021 towards a more positive. So we are resuming the 46 years of formal relations with China with a very, very positive and bright outlook for the future.
When we say Filipino, we have to look also to the fact that not only do we have the indigenous people being part of this, but you also have the Chinese being a part also of the Philippine nation. They entered the Philippine scene much later on, from the 9th century up, and being here throughout all these centuries, even up to the present, they will always be part of our history.
Indeed, the Filipino-Chinese community has contributed a lot to our Philippine history. Right now, before we proceed to our next part of the program, we would all like to invite everyone to please open your cameras as we take a group photo. 请大家一起来打开摄像头，让我们一起来合影留念。Once again, please turn on your cameras as we take this opportunity to have a group photo. All right, 1, 2, 3. 请大家一起对着镜头，坐在镜头的中央微笑哦。1、2、3。One more time. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much for your cooperation. And today we are very, very lucky and very honored to receive numerous videos from esteemed politicians. 今天我们非常荣幸收到来自菲律宾政要的祝贺视频，为我们今天的庆典添砖加瓦，让我们一起来聆听。
Friends in the Filipino-Chinese community, happy Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day. Congratulations to the Federation for spearheading again the celebration of this special day of friendship and the 47th anniversary of our diplomatic relations with China. The Filipino-Chinese community has been a potent link of Philippine-China relations, and the Federation has been the driving force of most activities to sustain the warmth of our country's friendship. Thank you, FFCCCII. Our relationship with China is very important for many reasons. One, the Philippines and China being neighbors should maintain good relations. Next, China is the fastest growing economy among the major nations and may soon become the world's largest. Then also, we need infrastructure. And there is no country in the world that matches China's recent track record and capability in infrastructure development. But the best reason is you, the vibrant Filipino-Chinese community whose increased business dealings with China are very natural and should be furthered. China has been generous to us in the last 30 plus years, thanks in large part to the efforts of the Filipino-Chinese community. During my presidency, then Chinese President Hu Jintao remarked that the Philippines and China were entering our golden age of friendship. The sheen of that golden age dimmed for a while after my term, but that was a fluke. With President Duterte at our country's helm, our overall relations with China have gone back to being confident, mature, and comprehensive. People have asked me, what are the prospects on China-Philippines relations under President Duterte's successor? I am very optimistic because, one, from President Ferdinand Marcos Sr., many of our presidents, in fact, most of our presidents, have built on the positive relations between the Philippines and China. And two, we have you, the very dynamic community of Filipino-Chinese, particularly in the business sector, supportive of the next president. President-elect Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr.'s statement that relations with China will be expanded and shift to a higher gear bolsters this view. You are assured that your efforts to deepen Philippines-China relations will be appreciated and encouraged. Thus, we have more reason to rejoice as we mark our 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day and the 40th year of diplomatic ties with China. Mabuhay and Sheshe.
Greetings to the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Inc., and to the Filipino-Chinese communities all over the country. on the joint celebration of the 124th Philippine Independence Day and the 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day. I'm happy and honored to celebrate with all of you the historic diplomatic ties between our two countries, which continue to evolve and involve more aspects beyond trade, business, economy, security, culture, among others. As President Xi Jinping pointed out in his phone call with President-elect Bongbong Marcos, during the past 6 years, China and the Philippines have adhered to the good neighborly friendship, worked together for common development, and established a comprehensive strategic cooperative relationship. It is our hope that the cooperation and camaraderie between our countries will continue, especially now as we transition to a new government with the recently concluded national election. Let's continue our joint efforts in forging collaborative partnership and diplomatic dialogue, given that our economic and social development are tied as regional neighbors. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas at ang China.
A pleasant day to all. I am one with you in celebrating the 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day as part of our commemoration of the 47th anniversary of the Philippines-China diplomatic relations. It is indeed a privilege to join all of you here as we celebrate the centuries-old ties between the Philippines and China, which, as we all know, has reached great heights in recent years. Our bilateral relations anchored on dialogue and mutually beneficial cooperation in areas such as infrastructure and technology development, culture, trade, finance, and health have contributed greatly to the peace, stability, and prosperity in the region. This is especially true as the Philippines and China, together with our neighbors in the region, have worked successfully together to address the adverse effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. I hope and pray that we will continue to nurture this fruitful and meaningful partnership in the coming years, especially as we ensure the swift and comprehensive recovery of our society for the benefit of our peoples. Maraming salamat at mabuhay po kayong lahat.
Hello to all my friends in the Federation, lalo na sa ating Presidente, Mr. Henry Lim. And of course, I want to greet everyone. Happy Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day, as well as a Happy Independence Day. I wish I could be with all of you guys tonight, but unfortunately, I'm visiting with my family here abroad and having a vacation, a long-deserved vacation for them, almost 2.5 years of not being able to have a vacation with my family. So I just wanted to greet all of you, happy Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day, and I promise under the new 19th Congress, especially as senators, will continue to push for more reforms in the business sector to allow our businessmen the leeway, the opportunities of growth and prosperity. That is a promise. And again, I want to wish you all a happy Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day and a happy Independence Day. So mabuhay po kayo lahat, and may God bless you all.
It's a hammer of justice. It's a bell of freedom. It's a song about love between the brothers and the sisters all over this
Dr. Henry Lim Bon Leong, President of Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry, its Chairman Emeritus, Dr. Lucio Tan, and all the diligent officers, and all those who are so ever loyal members of this federation. Mabuhay po kayo. A pleasant morning to all of you. This is Senator Francis Tolentino. Thank you for the opportunity of inviting me to extend my warmest greetings to the Federation, which is celebrating two momentous occasions today. First, the 47th anniversary of the Philippines-China diplomatic relations, and second, the 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Days, 68 years since your founding. The Federation has always served as the voice of the Filipino-Chinese business community. It has endeavored to broaden the participation of its members in local and global economy while fostering its participation in various international trade initiatives in the region. Many of our Chinese friends consider the Philippines as their true home. There are 900,000 to 1 million ethnic Chinese in the Philippines, roughly 1.2% to 1.5% of the total Philippine population. Chinese immigrants reached the Philippines way back before the arrival of the Spaniards in the 16th century. Mahaba na po ito. That's why advancing Filipino-Chinese friendship goes beyond this deep-rooted history of trade, commerce, among others. In the 21st century, benefits of Filipino-Chinese trade relations include massive infrastructure developments, foreign direct investments, and other infrastructure projects such as bridges and airports. Ang nangyayari po ngayon ay pagpapakita ng pagkakaisa ng Filipino-Chinese community at maging ang mga kababayan at kaibigan sa mainland China. This exchange of rich cultural and trade relations, capital and investments, as well as sincere desire to earnestly help each other are what makes the forged friendship between the Filipino-Chinese community thrive for almost several decades. Again, congratulations to the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and more power to our organization. I hope to see you again in the near future. Salamat po.
It's a hammer of justice. It's a bell of freedom.
Hao, Dr. Henry Lim Bon Leong, President of the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Dr. Lucio Tan, Chairman Emeritus, Honorary Presidents, Officers, and members of the FFCCCII, members of the Filipino-Chinese business community, distinguished guests, a pleasant afternoon to all of you. Today, we are celebrating the long-standing friendship between Filipinos and Chinese peoples, as well as contributions of Chinese Filipinos to our national development, the 46th anniversary of the country's diplomatic relations with China. We are also celebrating the 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day. Let me take this opportunity to express my gratitude to the FFCCCII tradition of supporting the programs of the government. Amid the challenging times, your kindness and generosity have significantly reached many of our kababayans who fought the challenges and distress brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. You have provided jobs to many of our kababayans, built classrooms for public schools and housing for Filipinos affected by typhoons, provided assistance to victims of tragedies, conducted medical missions, among many others. Maraming salamat po. Challenges become less daunting when we work together in unison with others. Makakaasa kayo na katuwang ninyo ako sa Senado sa inyong hangaring makatulong sa ating mga kababayan at protektahan ang kapakanan ng ating lipunan. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Mabuhay ang FFCCCII, mabuhay ang Filipino-Chinese Community.
Greetings and best wishes to the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry and the Filipino-Chinese community's joint celebration of the 124th Philippine Independence Day and the 21st anniversary of Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day. 47 years years ago, President Ferdinand Marcos made the bold decision to establish formal diplomatic relations with the new China, widely viewed as an unpopular and risky move by a Southeast Asian leader at the time, for this was the height of the Cold War. But it has proven to be one of the wisest foreign policy shifts made by the Philippines, when the world was in the middle of the Cold War, racked by an extensive economic and inflationary crisis. It started with Marcos sending me, my father, the editor and publisher of the Philippines Free Press, the best Filipino writers of the time, Nick Joaquin and Chitang Nakpil, to explore and report inside China of the great Chinese Cultural Revolution. We witnessed the explosion of China's first hydrogen bomb. We established lasting friendships. It is also the time of the Six-Day War, when we saw the Chinese people's commitment to Arab aspirations. It was a time of hope for the better, and of glimmers of more of the same tragedies, of beginnings good and bad, and of futures no one could forecast, and repetitions of tragedies. It was a time when sparks were discerned of China's future emergence as a great economic and trading power, and of a new kind of Filipino-Chinese friendship. The restoration of Philippine democracy was celebrated by the grand state visit of President Corazon Aquino to China to revisit their ancestral home there. In 2018, our bilateral ties were elevated to a comprehensive strategic cooperation under the able leadership of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte and President Xi Jinping. The 6-year term of President Duterte, China has become one of the Philippines' most important bilateral economic partners. The positive trajectory of Philippines-China bilateral relations contributed to infrastructure cooperation, specifically the Build program. It is heartening that the Binondo Intramuros Bridge, a symbol of the centuries-old ties between our peoples, was completed before the end of the President's term. This bridge, connecting the historic city of Intramuros and the oldest Chinatown in the world, is a gift of the Chinese government. As we enter the next phase in our bilateral relationship, with the coming of a new Philippine administration, I am confident that the government, partnership with organizations like the FFCCCII, under the dynamic leadership of Henry Lim Bon Leong, will further enhance economic and people-to-people relations with China, fortifying the friendship, trust, and amity between our peoples without compromising our patriotic duty to defend our country from foreign subversion and outright aggression. Again, my felicitations and warm wishes to the entire Filipino-Chinese community and to the FFCCCII for an enjoyable and meaningful celebration. May your good work in promoting friendship and cooperation between the Filipino and Chinese peoples broaden and prosper. Thank you.
I am honored to join the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry Incorporated in celebrating the 47th anniversary of Philippines-China diplomatic relations, as well as the 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day. China and the Philippines are good neighbors with a long history of friendship. Over the past 4 decades, China-Philippine relations have grown and deepened through tangible and productive collaborations. Our two countries have continuously undertaken joint efforts to promote fruitful partnerships as well as constant diplomatic dialogue. We are truly grateful for the assistance provided by the Chinese government during the global health crisis. The Department of National Defense is especially thankful for the vaccines it donated to the security sector by the Chinese Ministry of Defense. I also appreciate the Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry Incorporated, as well as the Filipino-Chinese community, for donating medical equipment, sharing best practices, and sustaining supply chains during the pandemic. Today's celebration speaks of the strong ties that bind us in the spirit of friendship, respect, understanding, and cooperation. We are hopeful that our people and nations will continue to progress in the future. May we further strengthen our relationships as two sovereign nations committed to prosperity and harmony. Maraming salamat at mabuhay!
Magandang araw po sa ating lahat. Deja I'm pleased to join you today, the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry Incorporated, in celebrating the 124th Philippine Independence Day and 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day. The Federation's untiring effort and integral role in strengthening the Filipino-Chinese relations, particularly in the promotion of increased trade and investments for various sectors and industries, is truly remarkable. The Department of Agriculture is one with the whole nation in celebrating and commemorating the sacrifices and heroism of Filipinos who fought for our freedom. Today, we also recognize our long-time friendship with the Chinese people, which has formed greater solidarity for the benefit of our people and the entire world. This event is significant for all of us as we strive for more agricultural cooperation between our two nations, boosting the Philippine economy and uplifting the plight of our local farmers and fishers. Thank you for being a dependable partner of the government in achieving socioeconomic development for more than 6 decades since the formation of your federation in 1954. May these twin celebrations foster greater understanding and closer ties between the Philippines and China to continuously pursue peace, stability, and inclusive progress for both nations. Mabuhay and Shashi Deha.
To the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry, led by its president, Dr. Henry Lim Bolyong. Distinguished guests, friends, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to deliver this greeting on the occasion of your joint commemoration of the 124th Philippine Independence and the 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day. Relations between the Republic of the Philippines and the People's Republic of China have evolved in favorable directions. China has grown to be one of our country's most important trading partners, and China is now our largest source of imports and third largest export market. Also, China has become an essential source of foreign investment. The coming administration of President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr. intends to take the relationship to new heights. In his words, to expand and to shift to a higher gear the ties between the Philippines and China. And as with the many milestones that our two countries have celebrated in the past, I expect the Filipino-Chinese community to play a significant role in further deepening the Philippine-China relations. On my end, having accepted the nomination of our President-elect, you can rest assured that I will work on his vision. Congratulations to the Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry for the successful holding of this event. And I look forward to working with you and the rest of the Filipino-Chinese community towards a more robust, more vibrant Philippine trade and industry sector. Mabuhay!
It is a great honor and privilege to join you, our dear compatriots in the Filipino-Chinese community, in the celebration of the 124th Philippine Independence Day and the 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day this year. I thank you, my friends, for taking the time off your busy schedule to mark this important event in our history. Your presence here today is a testament on how all of you value the bond of friendship that our peoples have forged throughout the years. It also highlights our common desire to continue enjoying peace with our family and the fruits of our labor under the regime of freedom, justice, and democracy. For so many years, the Filipino-Chinese community has proven itself as a strong and reliable component in the progress of our nation, both in times of war and peace. We all fought together to keep our community safe, and we all labor together to move our country forward. Ours is an unshakable bond tested by time. Beginning next month, we are again called to action and to service, not to bear arms against a foreign invader, but to heed the clarion call of unity by the incoming administration of President Bongbong Marcos. We are asked to reach out to our fellow Filipinos, friends and foes alike, and implore them to join us in the task of nation building. This task will not be easy. The threat of COVID-19 is not fully over. Businesses have yet to recover to pre-pandemic level, and the jobs of our people in small, medium-scale enterprises are still in peril. Our economy is still bouncing back from the ravages of the pandemic, but I have no doubt that we can overcome these challenges. We have proven our resilience as a people and our ability to bounce back in times of uncertainties, knowing that the Filipino-Chinese community is with us in facing these challenges. I know we shall succeed. Thank you and more power. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Mabuhay ang sambayanang Pilipino.
Bangon Pilipinas, ang sigaw ng bayan.
Hi, I would like to greet everyone, especially the officers and members of the Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce as we celebrate the 124th Philippine Independence Day and the 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day. Let us continue to work together for a more prosperous Philippines. Maraming salamat po.
My warm greetings to all the members and officers of the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry led by President Dr. Henry Limbong Leong. It is but fitting to celebrate the 124th Philippine Independence Day and the 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day. The bond between our two countries spans several centuries, dating back to the time when our ancestors would trade basic resources and goods, which greatly influenced our cultures and our traditions. Fast forward to the present, our nations continue to foster and strengthen this camaraderie and cooperation on various issues and advocacies. For example, both China and the Philippines focused on improving our relations through infrastructure programs such as the Belt and Road Initiative and the Build, Build, Build program. Likewise, China remains the largest trading partner, the largest source of imports, the third largest export market, and the second largest foreign investor of the Philippines. Even during the pandemic, our countries continue to extend help and support to one another. Quezon City has also benefited from the strong friendship of our nations, given that we received a large amount of COVID-19 vaccine donations through the national government. Our friends from different Filipino-Chinese organizations and groups have also extended their generosity and support to our Q citizens. We are truly grateful for all the endeavors you undertook for our fellow Filipinos. Rest assured that the city government will continue supporting the friendship of our nations. Happy Independence Day to our fellow Filipinos and Happy Friendship Day, China. Mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Thank you so much to all our esteemed political guests for your greetings and messages to our event. We would also like to take this opportunity once again to thank our media friends present in our event today. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to celebrate this very special occasion with us. 非常感谢今天下午莅临今天的活动的各位媒体朋友们，也非常感谢今天下午发来祝贺视频的各位重要嘉宾。Up next, we have very special entertainment programs that we prepared for all of you. First up is an interpretive dance performed with Kalinga women from the Apayao province in the Cordillera region, showing their agility and balancing the bangas on top of their heads while toddling through rice paddles and mountain paths. This is a daily routine to fetch water from the mountain springs. 请大家一起来欣赏菲律宾民族舞蹈 Banga。 Thank you so much to the Filipino-Chinese Theater Dance Company for bringing this wonderful performance called Banga. 非常感谢飞华舞蹈艺术团带来的精彩民族舞蹈表演。Up next is a traditional dance from the Uyghur ethnic group in Xinjiang province, China, performed gracefully by our very own Filipino-Chinese Theater Dance Company. Let us all watch this dance entitled Beautiful Ladies. 接下来请一起来欣赏来自飞华舞蹈艺术团的新疆维吾尔族传统民族舞蹈《美丽姑娘》。Thank you so much to the Filipino-Chinese Theater Dance Company for that beautiful dance number. Today, we celebrate the 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day, but our friendship has hundreds of years of history. Up next, we dedicate the Song of Friendship with Standing Time entitled 相聚到永久, Together Forever, to our long-lasting Filipino-Chinese friendship. Let us all listen to this beautiful song.
才能拥有不息的信仰和力量。相聚到永久，风雨并肩走，共患难，我们手牵手，永远是朋友。相聚到永久，风 的天空才能书写腾飞的希望和辉煌。相聚到永久，风雨并肩走，共患难，我们手牵手，永远是朋友。相聚到永久，风雨并肩走，看东方，我们同声唱，
我们永
远是朋友。
相聚到永久, together forever. Thank you so much for that beautiful song. Up next, we're very, very lucky to be able to be graced by the beautiful voice of one of the most well-known singers in the Philippines. He is a singer, composer, songwriter, and entrepreneur in the Filipino-Chinese community, Mr. Jose Marichan. And in order to help this project of the FFCCCII, he did not charge us for this song number. So we're very lucky to be able to receive his support in this civic project. 下面我们一起来聆听华裔知名歌手 Jose Marichan 曾焕福带来2首歌。
Tell me your name, you're lovely, please tell me your name. Just when I thought that this would be one of those boring games, you walked into these feelings. You looked at me and smiled. My heart unfroze and started growing wild. Can you imagine this? The confusion of first love's kiss, a return to wondering if the magic of love was this. You merely said hello, and my mind did a stop and go. Can it possibly be the future for me is you? Tell me your name, I must know, won't you tell me your name? I'm not insane, just frightened that you might go. Don't go, please stay beside me. Just wait until I can tell you all my schemes, chasing rainbows, spinning dreams, finding someone to love. Insane, just frightened that you might go. Don't go, please stay beside me. Just can tell you all my schemes, chasing rainbows, spinning dreams. Tell me please your name, tell me.
I want to send my warm greetings to the members and officers of the Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry, most especially to my good old friend, Dr. Henry Lim Boon Leong. You know, I'm proud of my Chinese heritage. In fact, I always tell people that I owe my musical gift to my Chinese heritage. But I'm also proud of being a Filipino. I was born to a Chinese businessman father who owed this country the opportunity of success in his business. So on to my second song. It's called Mr. Songwriter. I composed this in 1974. It's called Mr. Songwriter. Unfortunately, it did not become popular. Radio did not play it until some years later when Tagalog lyrics were written to it, and it was eventually called Mamang Sorbitero. But as it is today, here is Mr. Songwriter. I wrote this back in 1974.
Mr. Songwriter, write me a song. Make it a short and simple melody with words that will carry our message across, our message of peace to every country. Sing, all you people all over the world. Sing out and be heard all over the world. Lay down your arms, for we all belong to one another. Come and sing along. Plenty of lengthy discussions among leaders of nations, the weak and the strong. Quarrels unending, suppression of rights. We can be strong, let's sing with all our might. Sing, all you people all over the world. Sing out and be heard all over the world. Lay down your arms, for we all belong to one another. Come and sing along. We've come a long way from yesterday. We've worked to become what we are today. A better tomorrow is for me and for you. Why lose it now? Let's see our visions come true. Sing, all you people all over the world. Sing out and be heard all over the world. Lay down your arms, for we all belong to one another. Come and sing along. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Everybody. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. One more time. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jose Marichan, for gifting us your beautiful voice in this beautiful occasion. 非常感谢曾焕福先生今天下午为我们带来这两首特别好听的歌曲。And now let us all welcome FFCCCII Vice President and Media Committee Advisor Jeffrey Nang for his closing remarks. 请大家一起来欢迎非华商联总会副理事长黄奇昭先生致谢词。
Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of FFCCCII, I would like to thank all of you for joining us today to celebrate the 124th Philippine Independence Day and the 21st Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day. We would like to thank all our esteemed guest speakers who have shared with us their greetings and goodwill messages for these occasions. As we celebrate the anniversary of our independence, we honor and valor the sacrifices of our heroes, then and now, to attain the freedom and development we are all enjoying now. It is but right that we treasure and cultivate these for future generations. Let us unite as one people to ensure the continued prosperity of our nation. As Chinoys, we are pleased to celebrate the friendship we have long established with our partner in development and trade, China. We aspire for our brand of friendship to be stronger for the mutual benefits of our peoples. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pagdalo sa ating pagtitipon ngayong hapon upang ipagdiwang ang ating ika-124 na araw ng kalayaan at ika-21 selebrasyon ng araw ng pagkakaibigang Pilipino-Chino. Nagpapasalamat din po kami sa lahat ng ating panauhin na nagbigay ng kanilang mensahe ngayong hapon. Sa pagdiriwang natin ng araw ng kalayaan, tayo ay nagpupugay sa ating mga bayani noon at ngayon sa lahat ng kanilang mga sakripisyo upang ating makamit ang kalayaan at kaunlaran na tinatamasa natin ngayon. Nararapat lamang na ito'y ating pahalagahan at payabungin para sa mga susunod na henerasyon. Magkaisa tayong lahat upang matiyak ang patuloy na kasaganaan ng ating bansa. Malugod din po nating ginugunita ngayon ang matagal ng pagkakaibigan ng ating bansa at ng China na ating kapartner sa pag-unlad at komersyo. Hangad po natin ang patuloy na pagpapatibay ng ating pagkakaibigan para sa ikabubuti ng ating mga mamamayan. 今天本会通过线上举行庆祝菲律宾共和国第124周年独立节及第21届非中友谊日，与全非兄弟和全国各地非华社会诸位同胞一起欢度这一节日，非常荣幸能够邀请到菲律宾总统杜特迪阁下和中国驻菲特命全权大使黄希濂阁下分别致辞，以及邀请到诸多政要在大会上致简短祝词，使庆祝活动增添无限光彩。再次，我们也要感谢当选总统蒙马可斯和当选副总统沙拉杜特迪等诸非政要旨意祝词，让大会获得无限光荣。同时，也要感谢各国族费使节、主流社会、商业团体、旅非外国 商会、也华社各团体领导和代表在百忙中拨冗参加今天的盛会，加添了大会的热闹气氛。大家一直以来对商总的支持和爱护，令我们甚受感动，并存感恩之心。本会将会铭记在心。非中建交47年来，两国友好关系继续发展，为彼此间在贸易、投资、农业、教育和其他领域的合作铺平道路。两国应该以互相信任为根本，彼此之间互相包容，求同存异，和睦相处，追求彼此之间共同繁荣。相信在后任总统马可斯上任后，非中友好关系将会继往开来，更上一层楼。两国友谊将进一步深化发展，并加强巩固彼此间的互利合作，造福两国人民。非华商联总会今后将继续致力于推进发展非中友好两国关系向前迈进，并与非华社会携手合作，推动两国在各方面的互动，期盼非中两国能够加强双方之间的合作、协调和联系，使两国关系的黄金时代更加辉煌。最后，敬祝在座各位事业发达，节日愉快。Happy Independence Day, Happy Filipino-Chinese Friendship Day, maligayang araw ng kalayaan, maligayang araw ng pagkakaibigang Pilipino-Chino. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po. 谢谢大家。
非常感谢副理事长黄奇昭的致谢词。Thank you so much, Vice President Jeffrey Nang, for your closing remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and friends from the media, today afternoon celebration has officially come to a close. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us this afternoon. 各位女士们、先生们，亲爱的各位来宾、媒体朋友们，今天下午的庆典活动就到此圆满落幕。非常感谢大家在百忙中拨出宝贵的时间来参加我们的活动。我是来自非洲电视台的庄玲玲。Once again, I'm Luella Chan from Chinatown TV, and it's my honor to have hosted this occasion with all of you. 祝大家身体健康，万事如意。祝非中友谊万古长青。Wishing everyone a great week ahead, and wishing the Filipino-Chinese friendship long-lasting to come. Thank you.